Welcome back to the podcast. Honored to be with you tonight. This is the Equally Yoked Show. Email us your thoughts, freedom@equallyokedshow.com. Guys, we're coming down with a little bit of a sickness, so excuse the just the terrible congestion. Okay, so look, we've got Zohran Mamdani. Of course, he's always putting himself in the news because Zohran Mamdani is somebody who's really climbed up the ranks in the last couple of months since his election, since his inauguration. But Mamdani's rise in America has stirred up many democratic socialists to the table. They've been inspired, called, challenged to take hold of power. Or was this something happening behind the scenes? We're going to be going over this and more. Feel free to share your comments down below. And of course, you can always email me and like the show, share the show. Let's get the show out there so we can really get the conversation going concerning all of this, because this is very important stuff. Of course, if you've been watching the news, if you've been following the news, what's happening, of course, you know, maybe you're not so neck deep in this stuff, and that's good. You know, a lot of the people that, you know, are too involved in this, for sure, you should step outside, get a deep breath, and know that God is in control of everything. God is the one that sits on the throne. And we have the power to, whether, you know, this affects us, but we also have the power to change. And so would Mamdani change the Constitution to run for president? I wouldn't put it behind him to try. We have this post talking about Mamdani, who's seeking, or rather who may change the Constitution to run for president. He weighs in on this. Now, he says, I think the Constitution looks good the way it is. Sort of tries to divert the situation here. But he goes on to say, I'm very excited to focus on New York City, but thank you for reminding me of my upcoming morality. He's talking to ABC News anchor. So he says here, despite claiming that he's not after the presidency, Mamdani was bullish on his role as a major power broker in the Democratic Party. Now, here's what's interesting. You're seeing all of this talk from the Democrat Party that Mamdani's not the future. This is Hakeem Jeffrey saying Mamdani is not the future. Says last week, Mamdani scored a victory over Democratic leadership when 3 candidates he endorsed in a competitive primary races, Brad Lander, Claire Valdez, and Darialisa Avila Chevalier. They won primary races. They've championed far left agenda. And of course, Darialisa, we looked at some of her posts concerning just disgusting stuff that she said about wiping her hands because she forgot napkins. She wiped her hands on an American flag. She has even said publicly, F Kamala Harris on an X post. Of course, all this stuff has since been deleted, but people have managed to recover this. She has many, many posts where she's talking about the removal of borders, the complete abolishment of ICE. Here's a post here. Let me actually show it to you so you can see what we're looking at. This is her saying that she forgot to get napkins, so I just wiped my hand on the American flag behind me. Nice. Somebody who's now put in the position to run for Congress. Look, I don't think they're even after the high, powerful positions. You talk about mayor, you talk about governor. Maybe that's where they want to start. Maybe. But you have more ways to affect change if you are in Congress. This is why a lot of them are moving towards Congress. You see Ilhan Omar, you see the Rashida Tlaib, where they go for these positions in order to affect change on a greater scale. They can, especially if Donald Trump's in power, they can most certainly enact their agenda in order to really put a stop to what he wants to do within America, making it great again. Now, of course, we've got all these different debates as to how we will get there. And I understand the frustration behind certain issues, such as the Iranian war, such as the conflicts, the ongoing conflicts, the peace talks, and then the ceasefire agreement, all this wasted money. I understand this position. And while we can talk about that on another broadcast, let's look at this is what the left revealed. They revealed their secret plan in plain sight. The secret plan was very clear. We went over this on the broadcast just a few months ago. When this podcast dropped with Bernie Sanders talking about what Mamdani did in New York, we want to do across the country. And this has slowly been formulating, slowly been behind the background. Well, everybody is distracted with what Donald Trump is doing and how Donald Trump is running the country. The Democrats are at work. They want to show you what's in this hand only to eventually reveal what's in this hand. Or, the magician's trick. Somebody help me out here. What is it? It's the sleight of hand of the magician, of the sleight of hand of the Democratic Party. This is what was being revealed behind the scenes. Not a lot of people are going to be looking at this content unless you seek to understand where the Democratic Party is going, the direction. So I'm going to play this clip for you. Listen very closely to what Bernie Sanders, we should call him Bernie Sanders now. Bernie Sanders, concerning the Democratic Party, the way in which they are shifting, moving. Here we go. Let's play clip.
Build a political movement. We are doing it with the 3 candidates for the Senate. I expect more to come with many candidates in the House, candidates all over this country running for local office. We're going to build that movement, grassroots movement, to do what Mamdani did in New York City, all over this country, and create a government that works for everybody, not just the billionaire class.
Last question.
Look, he said it perfect. He said it perfect. The Bernie Sanders that talks about Elon Musk's rise as a trillionaire. A whole nother discussion concerning that, saying that we must fight back. This is not just about wealth. It's all about power. He says Musk and his fellow oligarchs want it all. But we saw what happened in 2024. The oligarchs that we were facing when it comes to the deep state that was working to remove Donald Trump from the ballot by indictments, convictions, and none of this was going to affect him. It only actually pushed him further beyond the finish line. So as Bernie Sanders said it, he said it very well. And of course, from all of this, we now see these 3 candidates that we just discussed, where it was a major win for the Democratic Socialists of America Party, and who's actually, who the faces that we're now beginning to see. So let's take a look at some of these. Let's take a look at some tape here. This is very important. So Bernie Sanders, just to recap, Bernie Sanders wants America's next candidates to be like Zoran Mamdani. Copy and paste his ideology, his politics, a blueprint. It's the perfect blueprint. Let's take a look.
This is an all-out war for the soul of the Democratic Party, and the socialists seem to be winning. They're ready to clean house and do whatever it takes to advance their radical agenda.
We cannot keep paying for Netanyahu's wars with our tax dollars.
And we have to use every tool in the toolbox
to make sure that we abolish ICE and keep our immigrant neighbors safe.
The work continues, my friends. Solidarity forever. Abolish ICE. Free Palestine.
What I heard from many voters is they do want a different kind of politics.
And we've also seen New Yorkers who are moving in a direction, younger New Yorkers who are moving in a direction. This was, I believe, the AP that was showing this broadcast on a YouTube Shorts, I think. I'll have to go back to it, but otherwise there is a discussion within younger New Yorkers, the ones who just moved there, the ones who are living there more recently rather than those who have been there for decades. Somebody who really doesn't understand the lifestyle of New York because they haven't lived there long enough. They want to see change. This is Mamdani's perspective concerning this. But they've only been there for about 5 years, maybe less than that. And so this is dangerous because we have these new socialists who are on the rise, where we've discussed, again, this is from, actually Reuters reported this. This is a Shorts. It's actually going to cut it off, so I'm not going to, you know what, let me play this clip. I think it'd be helpful for you.
I think Mamdani won because there is a big movement throughout, I would say, I'm going to say the youth, the younger folks in New York that want change. I think that's really what moved the needle there, and I think that's why you're seeing it with the other candidates that are now moving. People in New York care about their rent, they care about progressive and liberal policies, and Mamdani was able to cater to that audience. And I think it's why you're seeing that kind of result in the primary as well.
I just love the direction that New York is going. Since Mamdani's win, I think it's been just a total upturn in culture, diversity, and to see more progressive candidates come into office in the city, I just think it's a plus.
Now, she mentions something very key there. She says this progressive movement. And we've talked about progressive on this broadcast before when we talk about Woodrow Wilson. And this very staunch warning that creates this progressivism link. It's not new. This entire progressive movement traces back to Woodrow Wilson, who explicitly argued that the U.S. Constitution was an outdated obstacle to a powerful centralized state. Progressivism is fundamentally antithetical to the Founding Fathers' vision because it seeks a living constitution, controlled by elite bureaucrats rather than fixed, God-given natural rights. And so we look at when she talks about this culture and, this culture revolution, this is great for the culture. Now, if that's the only reason why you're aiming in this direction for these candidates, well, you're going to get that, but you're going to get much more that you did not sign up for. And that comes along with not only socialism, but very Marxist positions when it comes to how they want to run the state. And so we see the government-ran grocery stores. We see that Zohran Mamdani has continually talked about eliminating removing those who are neglecting the landlords who are neglecting tenants. And so we played this clip at his speech, the block by block speech, when it talks about revoking the ownership of the landlords and possibly giving them to, let's see if we can play this clip. It's not going to be the best audio because it's coming from another source here. But he's talking about removing landlords. And so let me find that clip for you. This is a bit of a clip on the fly, so just hang with me while I look for this. And I want to know your thoughts. Let me know down in the chat. Here we go.
And for buildings that have suffered chronic neglect, we will work to transfer ownership to responsible stewards. Stewards that include community land trusts, nonprofits, or even the tenants themselves.
This is Mamdani's plan in full effect. This is socialism quickly transforming, or, you know, it's disguised as socialism. This is Marxism. This is what it is. And so Bernie Sanders is in favor of this. Elizabeth Warren is in favor of this. So we got socialism before GTA 6, 100%. But we look at the warnings that continue to come from many different aspects of the government. Mike Johnson talking about this huge warning that is coming to the West. A reminder that he gives. Let's play this tape.
The Democrat Party, the socialists, the Marxists have nominated some of the most radical candidates to ever run for office, and they're running for Congress. The insurgent left is on the rise. I was reminded all last night and this morning about the warning, the admonition from the Gipper, President Ronald Reagan. And he reminded us constantly, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. And he said, it's got to be fought for, it's got to be protected, it's got to be passed along to the next generation so that they too will know the same liberty, opportunity, and security that we've known and frankly too often take it for granted. He said, freedom is not passed along in the bloodstream. It's got to be fought for.
So he's right, because this is growing more and more. We're seeing this moment here. And look, we have examples. Biblical examples, of course. God tells the nation of Israel to establish monuments as a reminder as to what God has done, a symbol to the next generations. When Mike Johnson talks about the removal, or, you know, a generation could be gone, what was he say? Freedom could be gone in one generation. I think that's what he said. My mind is completely all over the place. I'm just trying to get on track here, but as a child walks by these monuments that God was telling the Jewish people to establish, the child would ask their father, what are these about? It's an opportunity for them to share the truth, of fathers to share the truth with their children and pass down the heritage, pass down the history as to why God established, this, moment for Israel. The West has been invaded. The radical ideology of Islam has seeped itself in, not by force, but with deception. Appeal to the youth, take advantage of those who distrust government, gain their trust only to betray them with the very thing they hated in the beginning. The bloated oligarchy, they disguise it with democracy. Mamdani's very well spoken. He knows how to catch the attention of the youth, especially the way he's creating his videos. We've talked about how good his media team is. His media team is excellent in portraying the way he wants to communicate in a very fun, very playful way that is, intermingles all of this playfulness with the way he speaks and the way he tries to learn Spanish and the way he just tries to cater to everybody. And he's very good. Now, we see this also happening in California. We see, of course, Karen Bass, who completely obliterated the two candidates that were in the running. That is the socialist who's running for mayor. Gosh, I already forgot her name. Nithya Raman, and Spencer Pratt, who's running as an independent. Well, I mean, there's no title on the ballot for mayors, but he's expressed this, that he's not Republican, he's not Democrat, he's really for the people, and he was doing a good job getting himself right in front of the cameras, getting himself in front of interviews, and really pushing it out there on social media, catering to a lot of these folks. And so, not only do you have that happening in New York, you're having this potential rise in socialism in California. And it's the copy and paste across the nation. And so there's a couple of pieces of tape here that I want to play. We'll go to this clip. Gosh, there's so much here. There's so much to just cover. Okay. Now this is I'll play that tape in the end. Okay, so this is what's continuing to happen across the nation. We got to wake up to this. This could catch us off guard if you're not paying attention.
The battle is not only playing out in New York, but across the country. We are seeing socialist victories in Seattle, Washington, D.C., L.A., and on Capitol Hill, with far-left candidates raising millions, building national followings, gaining influence inside the Democrat Party. Joining me now is Florida Congresswoman Maria Salazar. Great to see you, Congresswoman. Thank you for being here. And your parents were Cuban exiles, so you have a unique perspective on the catastrophic effects of socialism.
Now, what I want to do is I want to look at Tom Homan, who's discussed a very important thing concerning Xavier Becerra, because we also have him running for governor, and we may see him become the next governor of California. Now, if we don't want change, if Californians don't want change, I think the majority of them do, because we've seen polls just to get a gauge as to, what we're looking at in California. They're saying that 52% of Californians actually want change. Now, is it very specific? I think it's more vague. What do they exactly want change on? Do they want change on a governor? Do they want change on policies? Because even a Democratic governor can still change policies and really prosper the state. But let's have, just to reveal who we're working with when it comes to the potential governor of California. Look, we're all in for Steve Hilton. But there is a danger if Xavier Becerra becomes the elected governor. Let's take a listen at this tape.
Under the last administration, nearly 500,000 children were smuggled into this country, separated from their parents, put in hands of criminal cartels, and released to unvetted sponsors. The old Secretary of HHS, Becerra, he stood on stage numerous times and was bragging about how quick these kids get released from custody. Shame on him. Because let me tell you what we found out. Many of the addresses provided by the sponsors didn't exist. We're out there looking for these kids, and the address is a supermarket, a parking lot, a church, shopping mall. Many of the IDs provided by the sponsors were fraudulent. Home checks weren't done to verify that that person lived at this address and it's a place where a child could be raised. They didn't vet the sponsors properly. They didn't vet anybody else in the household. Under President Trump, 45, not only did we vet the sponsor, we vetted everybody in that household to make sure there's not a predator or criminal in that household.
Now, the same Tom Homan, who was honored with a 2015 Presidential Rank Award for his distinguished service by Barack Obama, serving as Executive Associate Director for ICE. It's incredible that you see somebody who is now being pulled out of retirement in order to help America get back to a secure, borderized country where we're actually enforcing the laws rather than letting them, neglecting them. And the left completely hates him. But when he was operating for Barack Obama, there was no issues. Absolutely no issues. They even tried to cover up the stories of the children in these cages. And so we're seeing even all of this that is happening across the pipeline, where we're witnessing a sort of degrading of American society if people indeed don't want to elect correctly for the midterm elections. We're seeing this is a key moment that if by the end of 2026 we don't see a turnaround for how the nation is going, we're going to get even worse than what began under the Biden administration in 2020. They will finally take hold of power once again and establish themselves and prevent anybody else from becoming the next president of the United States, the next vice president, and so on and so forth. They will make it to where they control it all. It's their ideology. It's the left's ideology. I want to know your thoughts. freedom@equallyoakeshow.com. Send me an email, like and share, and subscribe to the podcast if you appreciate anything that we've discussed here. You say we should align with morals, not politics. Nobody should starve, and nobody should be imprisoned for wanting to follow their dreams. God bless you so much for your wonderful gift. I sent a gold coin. Wonderful. Thank you. Now, look, Ro, I understand your position. And look, I understand morals. You want to align with morals, but the Democratic Party does not have any morals. The morality is inconsistent. We've talked about this on this show. We've looked at the evidence. We've talked about, the way that they position themselves in order to really put on display their morality, where you're talking about opening up the borders, allowing for human trafficking, and of course, there's no argument on their side, or nobody who's advocating for the life of the unborn, nobody who's advocating for the American citizen to prosper. And of course, we saw even what they did during the State of the Union. Simple things that they could have simply stood for in order to show solidarity, that they're with the nation, they're with America. And instead, they proved themselves anti-American. It's simple. Simple issues. You simply can stand up. You can simply clap. You name it. And instead, they all sat there stone cold faced. Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib screaming at their lungs at Donald Trump. You have the corrupt politicians who have sided with those who are on the Epstein files, who have received plea deals. The very women who were listed on the emails talking about how delicious children look. You know the email. There's the corruption, the lack of morality, and the inconsistency, where they don't care if they burn businesses, they don't care if they hurt people. They will do whatever it takes in order to regain control of America and keep it that way. Now, we've been looking at, for the last couple of days, there has been several earthquakes. Several earthquakes we've seen in the Ring of Fire. This is the Northern California earthquake of 5.6 in Mendocino County. Venezuela earthquake, 7.2, 7.5, and there's some 200 aftershocks. Japan earthquake, 6.9, a Philippines earthquake. And now we're getting a rise in diseases, rise in pestilence, rise in famine. There is a warning in the scripture concerning the end days, and whether you subscribe to that or not, it will still happen. It will still come into fruition. Jesus warns us about the last days, saying that nation will rise against nation. There will be wars and rumors of wars. And how much has that increased 100-fold just in the last year? Just in the last 2 years. Heck, even 3 years. We go back to the start of the Ukraine-Russian war. We go back to what happened in Israel. October the 7th. Following that, wars and rumors of wars. We have now the Trump administration going, and we hear the Iranians who are threatening America. Not only Iran using its proxies to attempt to obliterate Israel, that is the Hezbollah and the Hamas proxies, Yemeni Houthi proxies, where the deterrence of America is seeking to calm all of this down, to bring about peace. And we know that peace will come, because when peace comes, then sudden destruction will come. That is by God, of course. And we see this throughout the scriptures. Nation will rise against nation, kingdom against kingdom, and there will be famines and earthquakes. Now, if you look at this word nation, the word nation means, it means ethnos. Now, the word ethnos is, as we discussed here on this podcast, is you can talk about the Gentiles, the people, the nations, anybody who's not a Jew. They're rising against each other. We're seeing this war, this racial war that is happening not only within America, but of course across the globe. And earthquakes in various places. We've seen a huge uptick in earthquakes that are so devastating. We're looking at the numbers in Venezuela alone. The numbers are reaching beyond 1,400 people. And it's getting, I mean, if you've seen the footage from there, it's so horrible. And the one thing that is mentioned at the end of this sort of, at the beginning of this start of what brings about the end of the age and the second coming, the sign of your coming, that is the disciples asking Jesus, is all of these are but the beginning of the birth pains. It doesn't get better. It will get worse. So we're looking at the change of the Democratic Party moving in the direction of socialism, eventually Marxism, and they've revealed their secret before us. Again, Bernie Sanders said this in the podcast that we played at the top of the show. If you weren't here for that part of the podcast, I highly recommend you go and you restart this when we're all done here. Look at the clip we played. Bernie Sanders talks about that we want to do what Mamdani did across the nation. There's a danger of not only Islam, but the radical ideology that Zohar Mamdani subscribes to. And that is to take hold of governmental powers and affect change from there. So guys, thank you so much for watching this broadcast. Email me your thoughts, freedomequallyokeshow.com. I hope you enjoyed what we discussed here. Subscribe to the podcast. And final comments, Bernie Sanders, member of the oligarchy since 1981. I mean, Bernie Sanders is a fossil at this point. He is old. He needs to get out. He needs to be removed from Congress. Many other people need to be removed. Maybe there should be term limits. You're crazy, bro. Allah willing, change will come. Yeah. That's wild. So you had a 5.0 earthquake in Ohio in the 80s. Must have been crazy because you guys don't experience. I don't remember if you lived in Ohio, but Ohio doesn't get earthquakes, does it? It's rare. You say good times create weak people, and who create weak people? Say who create bad times? Who create strong people? Oh no. There's supposed to be a comma there. Okay, good times create weak people, and bad times who create strong people. Who create good times? I get what you're saying. Maybe a little bit off there. You say I love Jesus and America. Amen. God bless America. Amen. Praise the Lord. You say Islam isn't forcing its religious ideals into schools in Texas. Oh, but it is. We went over the, yeah, you're right. Islam loves Jesus. And this is known as the Islamic dilemma. And it's fascinating when you actually just go through and you see how the Quran talks about that the scriptures, the Jewish and Christian scriptures are the infallible documents. Sorry, my phone just dropped. The infallible documents that if you have questions, go to your scriptures. Go to your own scriptures. And if Allah never lies, if Allah always tells the truth, there's a contradiction here. There's a dilemma. And so you see, when we looked at the Muslim, it was fascinating. We looked at this video that was a pretty extensive interview of Yasir Qadhi and a couple of others who are involved in what they're seeking to do in Texas, which is to build out this Muslim neighborhood community. And man, it was a great show. I highly recommend that you go back and look for it. Let me see if I can. Actually, PBS covered it. Yeah, this is let's go back here. This is Yasir Qadhi.
Abide by Sharia.
Yasir Qadhi is one of the he's a top scholar in Islam. He's like one of the sort of prominent heads when it comes to Islam and the teachings and all of this.
Sharia law.
The development never had a religious requirement for would-be residents. He says all are welcome.
All of this misinformation that's being spread from these influencers and the social media and the politicians, that is not true.
When I say Sharia to the average American Muslim, they would literally think of, okay, I need to be kind to my mother, I need to, be a good person.
I like how they cut him off, because that's not what Sharia is. Sharia, of course, is the enforcement of Islam. And you have the laws that Islam enforces, especially if you have somebody like Ilhan Omar who's taking her hand, taking cookies from the cookie jar, her hand would be removed. You talk about the fraud that she's allegedly involved with. The investigations, look, whether they find something or not, there is some serious shady stuff that is happening with Ilhan Omar. And of course, if we've even, question her motives, question anything that she's done, her fraudulent business, her net worth that has completely decreased from a astounding, close to $30 million to now nothing, a negative net income, or negative, what is it? Not net income. It's a negative net worth. She would call us a complete bigot, Islamophobe, xenophobic. If we look and investigate, that's what we are.
Qadhi says Sharia is a personal religious practice, often misrepresented by the community's critics.
Their interpretation of Sharia is not one that the Muslims of this country even understand. It's a personal set of rituals, ethical conduct. That's literally the association that we have of Sharia, is like.
But we have even influencers, social media influencers who are huge Muslims who are online talking about what to do with your wife if she doesn't give you, I don't know, we'll say for lack of better terms, the good deed, and what the man is apparently to do, and how they are to conduct themselves, having multiple wives, even marrying. Now you see a lot of people, especially in this chat, some that have come on this chat who are very pro-Islam, who say 9 is prime. Oh, what? Dead Man Lives, you remember that. This guy was wild. He was saying 9 is prime in the chat. Can you think of a more disgusting thing when you talk about Muhammad, who's married I believe it was a 6-year-old consummated at 9 years old. And I have clips from that we've played. Let me see if I can find them. This is on X. Let's see. See if I can pull these up. Here's this guy. So back when we covered this clip, I forget. We have to go back to some of the video, the broadcasts that we did. I forget who this guy is. I think he's an influencer, if I'm not mistaken. But this is somebody who's speaking here in Chicago. Now, some of the details that I gathered, you'll find them in the last broadcast. But this is what he was saying. Let me go to this clip here.
Unfortunately, these days we don't repeat this enough, or we don't have this aqidah concept firm in our minds.
So it says he's a Muslim scholar, according to Memory TV, and they post all these videos, all of these documented videos, very well documented. Even what Hamas was saying during the October the 7th war. So he's this is the Chicago Islamic scholar Mohammed Nusrat, I think it is.
Firm in our minds that Islam did not come to coexist. Islam Islam لا يعلى. الإسلام يعلو ولا يعلى عليه. And Islam is raised high and nothing is raised above Islam. We can't think of Islam that it came to live with these other religions, in the sense that Islam is a religion amongst those religions, and they have a share with the truth, and they have a share of justice, and they have a share of, this worship of Allah, the correct worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Islam came to correct all of that. Islam came to remove the oppression of all those religions, and it is the only truth, and it is the only way to justice.
Okay, so there's a lot more. Let me go to a couple more clips here. I'm trying to find them. I have to search by keywords here, and I don't remember exactly what they're under, but it's going to take a minute because we've talked about this a long time ago. Let's see here. I'm not sure if I'm gonna. So we know that Muhammad has talked about Zohar Mamdani has talked about Muhammad being the immigrant. This was, and I'll probably find it as I'm scrolling through here. Save all these. No, this is Maria Galindo. There's so much here. Let me see if I can. God Saad talked about, we actually talked about that with an interview that Joe Rogan did of God Saad, who's talking about Islam. Very well said. Let me see if I can, there's so much. There's so many clips that I haven't even showed you. Just a lot. Let me see here. Zohar Mamdani in his prime. before he was mayor.
So who is ready to end the exception? I want to hear you say, not on our time! Not on our time!
All right, we're just going down. Just doing the rundown here. One sec. We even have Hassan Piker as well, who said some pretty nasty things on X, even concerning the takeover, or rather making that violence will become inevitable because of it's just some crazy wild stuff that he was saying about a certain instance of something that happened during that time that he said that. I can't remember what it was about. I think it was with the ruling of something the Supreme Court justices ruled on. Yeah, there's just so much clips here. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find it. Just looking through all this stuff. I can try keywords, but it's just not going to come up unless I actually know what I'm looking for. So, okay, let me see if I can try another tab, another see if that comes up. No. No, I'm going to have to keep digging. Anyway, it's going to kill a lot of time. I'm going to have to keep digging and keep going. But otherwise, I feel like I'm getting close. Somebody's asking, was Hitler a Christian? Genuinely asking. Now, he was doing his motives. His motive for doing what he was doing, of course, very Hegelian dialectic, very inspired by the Planned Parenthood founder. Her name is what's her name? Somebody help me out here. Planned Parenthood founder, who very much advocated for in her letters about the gosh, we've looked at this before. There's so much to go through here. It's a lot of stuff that I don't even have prepared for. I'm going to have to go through and just find all this stuff, of course. But let's see here. Still looking. And look, the result of why Hitler was able to do what he did is because nobody stood up against the regime. I mean, you look at the White Rose Resistance and what they did, where eventually when they were caught, they were beheaded because of not only their faith, that they did why they did what they did in order to stand up for the Jews. They were very outspoken against Hitler and his regime. And it was incredible. This brother and sister who created this White Rose Resistance. And there's some great history there. but we talk about Margaret Sanger. I think that's the woman who I'm looking for. Margaret Sanger. Yeah, thanks, bro. I appreciate it. I'm barely looking at your comment. Margaret Sanger, who Hitler was inspired by because of her writings, talking about the dumb, the I'll have to get her exact words for it. Talking about using the black pastor. Very crazy stuff here. Let me see if I can find the 1916 project. Eugenics, right? Eugenics is what she was heavily driven on. The ideology that is aimed at population reduction, and of course let me see here. Yeah, so in her writings, she frequently expressed parallel eugenicist viewpoints, talking about the unfit, the feeble-minded, the elimination of defective stocks. That's who she called black people, reflecting the broader, now disregarded eugenics movement. I think she called this the let's see if we can find out a quote here. Yeah, I'll put this document. I'm not sure if this is even gonna, let me see here. No, this is not gonna, you can look at the, yeah, you're probably, let me see here. No, this is not it. She had quite a few papers, and we did an I edited an extensive video with a pastor by the name of James Cadiz, who went over this 1916 project and is very thorough, very, very thorough. It's excellent. But anyway, there's a lot to go through here. Not enough time to dig through all of this stuff. You say, I look poor. Most certainly I'm not rich. Say you have faith in you don't have faith in man. Amen to that. You shouldn't have faith in man. You say Hitler claimed to be a spiritual person and he was really into the occult. Hitler went after the wrong people. I don't know what you mean by that. Say Alex hates Trump. He now hates Trump, of course. And you see this whole turn on Israel. 100%. You see a complete turnaround on Israel where you're seeing the top, once advocates of Donald Trump and his administration. They're talking about, well, it's all Israel's fault. And so you see this, of course, with Candace Owens, Tucker Carlson. You see this with Alex Jones. And many others. Let's see if we can, we're still going through these clips here, but nonetheless, keep sharing your thoughts, guys. I'm going to play this clip while I'm looking for this, because there's just so much to sift through here. So just 1 second. This is the fraud that not a lot of people are covering. Not a lot of media is covering. Let's take a look.
President Trump directed this administration to confront healthcare fraud aggressively, and we are doing that. The 2026 National Healthcare Fraud Takedown uncovered $6.5 billion in alleged fraud, the second largest amount ever charged in a single healthcare fraud operation. The Department of Justice charged a record number of Medicaid fraud defendants. More than 440 defendants now face charges. This effort brought together federal agencies, state partners, and U.S. territories across the United States. 18 of the participating states, as Attorney General Blanche pointed out, were blue states with Democratic governors. The Department of Justice charged a record number of Medicaid fraud defendants. More than 440 defendants now face charges. This effort brought together federal agencies, state partners, and U.S. territories across the United States. 18 of the participating states, as Attorney General Blanche pointed out, were blue states with Democratic governors. Fraud does not recognize party lines, and neither does accountability. Today's cases include the largest Medicaid fraud enforcement action in the Department of history, 165 defendants charged with allegedly submitting more than $200 million in false claims to Medicaid. These schemes did not target government programs, they targeted the American taxpayer. They stole money from workers who pay taxes, from families who depend on Medicare and Medicaid, and from patients who trusted their healthcare professionals to be serving their health interests when it turns out they were just chasing money from our agencies. The allegations in these cases are particularly disturbing. Some defendants allegedly ordered medically unnecessary tests. Others prescribed products that patients did not need. Some allegedly fueled opioid addiction to increase their own revenue. In certain cases, patients allegedly died while believing they were receiving legitimate medical care from providers who only viewed them as billing opportunities. These defendants did not simply break the law, they violated the trust that patients place in medical professionals. One of today's indictments charged a hospice owner in Los Angeles area and two marketers in a $27.7 million Medicare fraud scheme. According to the indictment, the owner paid illegal kickbacks to obtain personal information of deceased Medicare beneficiaries. One of the ways that Colin and Dr. Oz have been chasing down hospice fraud, we've closed now 800 hospices in LA. And one of the ways that we've been able to detect that fraud is that in many of them, the patients never die. They live forever. That's not supposed to happen in hospices. And this particular owner was actually going out and purchasing names from coroners of dead patients and then billing us for those, to make it appear that some of his patients were actually finally dying. And while taxpayers funded these false claims, the owner purchased a Rolls-Royce Phantom. That case illustrates exactly what is at stake. Every fraudulent dollar diverted into a criminal scheme is a dollar unavailable for patient care, for medical innovation, or for services for vulnerable Americans. During the Biden administration, my predecessor implemented two reforms at HHS. One of those was the so-called pay and chase system. We know when invoices come into my agency, we can tell that some of them are fraudulent or probably fraudulent. And the new system said, we're not going to stop those payments. We want everybody paid, and then we'll claw them back at the end. It was called pay and chase. And when I asked people, the careers at HHS, how could you do this? This is crazy, because of course we never claw back anything. They said that they were told to focus on enrollment and not fraud. The other thing that they did is to liquidate our program integrity office. So when my predecessor came into office, there were 80 people in program integrity, which is not enough. It's 50 states and 5
Camera died,
territories.
guys. Sorry.
And when I got in, there was only 6 left. So all of those people were transferred or let go, and we were literally doing no program integrity. And that opened up the floodgates for all of this fraud. $100 billion in fraud a year that are being stolen now from my agency. The federal government paid claims first and chased fraud after the money was out the door. And that approach, of course, failed taxpayers.
Yeah, so the video that I was actually pulling up was somebody who is, I don't know his name, but talking about jizya, which is a tax for all non-Muslims. And that same guy, I believe it's that same influencer, which the video is not available anymore on X. I think it was the same influencer, the same person who was talking about women and let me see if not sure if I can find it on YouTube. I'm not sure if it'll come up, but it was like a live broadcast. Not even sure if I'm going to be able to find it. Oh, this might be
So again,
yeah, this is, well, let me see here.
So again, jizya, we start saying like this, like that. There's no need. And just to clarify as well, yes, jizya is taken from the non-Muslims. We take the jizya from the non-Muslims, the combatants, the enemies of Allah and His Rasul, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, in exchange. And when we say like tax, it's not like a council tax or road tax that you're paying. You understand? And I'll get to that point as well, is we're taking in exchange for your blood, for your life. Do you understand? We're taking it in exchange for your blood, for your life. This is mentioned by the commentators of the Quran as well. The Mufassirin, they've explained, the Fuqaha have gone into detail. And why are we taking this is because you are a rebellion. You are rebellious against Allah and His Rasul sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And because we have mercy, Islam has mercy, we're saying you pay the jizya. And again, we don't want to get into the discussion of how much and how much is stipulated, and the Fuqaha have explained this. But when you give the jizya to the Imam, the commander of the Mujahideen, or whoever's in charge at the time, then what we are guaranteeing you is a protection.
These are people that are in America, people that are speaking in America, people that are speaking in mosques all over the country. But that's not the guy I was talking about. So for the folks who are saying, even you, bro, I know you personally, you say this fool loves fear mongering. There's no fear mongering in what they're already implementing in America. It's just facts. There's always the discussion of, Islam is the Islam is incompatible with the West, but there is this understanding that people who talk about Islam, they're automatically equating that with Muslims, and not all Muslims are hard practicing Islamic fundamentalists. They are, you could say, lukewarm Islamic religious people. And so I don't know if I'm even going to be able to find, there's so much videos that I have to search through. I don't know if I'm going to be able to find this. It's going to take a minute to even figure out where I'd even find it. I think this is just crazy. So there's just so much to look at as to what these guys are putting out there online. People who are in America, a lot of people follow these people. Follow these influencers, these Islamic influencers. I forget the guy. I don't even know the guy's name. But he does like live streams on YouTube or on X or somewhere. And there is this idea of course, what Mamdani is pushing out there is socialism. These two go in hand. Islamic ideology and socialism is what begins to create the society of their ideology. Their society of eventually implementing Sharia law. And so you say, bring the receipts. Bro, none of this was even prepared for. This is all out of the discussion, apart from what we were discussing in the first place. So all of this stuff that we've covered on the broadcast, you can even look back. I don't even know if I'm going to be able to find it on my own live show. We've talked about this. We've, I think, shown the videos, if I'm not mistaken. If we go back just a couple of months, but there is plenty of stuff that we've covered concerning Islam. And it's not that hard to just, just go back and watch all that stuff. It'll take some time to look through, but there is a warning to the West that it is not, of course, it's not compatible with Western ideology. That is Islam. We know this. We know this for a fact. Yeah, I would just go back through some of the videos that I've put. Either it's Islam in the West, stuff like that. Let me see. Still trying to find out. Anyway, there's just so much. Maybe we'll bring it back, bring that evidence back on another broadcast. There's just too much to look for. Or too much to look through. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to find it tonight, but nonetheless, I'll send it in our chat when I find it. Yeah. All right. Moving on. You see, your title claims to uncover some secret plan of the left, implying an overall shared agenda among leftists. Yes, we played this at the top of the show. Let me go back because. For the folks that are just joining in, it seems like there's people joining in after the fact. This is Bernie Sanders, who is revealing to us the plan of the Democrats. And they're moving towards the direction of socialism, democratic socialism. This is what he talks about. This is the secret plan that is being revealed in plain sight. So just listen in here. This is a clip that we played at the top of the show. Just take a look.
With where the American people are, democratic establishment, who are way, way out of touch with where the American people are or where we have got to go. And our job is to build a political movement. We are doing it with the 3 candidates for the Senate. I expect more to come with many candidates in the House, candidates all over this country running for local office. We're going to build that movement, grassroots movement, to do what Mamdani did in New York City, all over this country, and create a government that works for everybody, not just the billionaire class.
But this is a bloated government, the same bloated government that we're watching Mamdani build in New York. He wants to put people in positions. And let's take a look at this clip. This clip I saw just scrolling through my bookmarks with Zoran Mamdani. Now I'm going to have to find this clip. Hold on. One sec. Because the ideology, this is clearly a antithetical according to what Islam actually teaches. And what it teaches is, of course, through, what they oppose with homosexuality and many of these things. So this is Zoran Mamdani creating a position, mayor's office of LGBTQIA plus affairs, and appointed Taylor Brown, a former assistant attorney general, and making her the first transgender woman to lead the new office. Let me play this clip here.
We all know too well The queer community, as well as intersecting communities and adjacent communities, are under extreme attack in this country from all angles, it seems, from the highest levels of government to society in general, and to even sometimes people that we consider friendly fire, unfortunately. And so now more than ever in this moment, it is so critical, I think, to have trans leadership, because we all know.
So the things that Mamdani has promised in New York still are causing people to question whether they voted for, they voted for Mamdani. Is he legit in his promises? Will he follow through? And so you see that New York, let me see if I can find the New York rent that has skyrocketed under Mamdani. Manhattan, New York rent. Let me see if I can find this. This is New York Post saying NYC enacts rent freeze on 1 million. No, this is not even it. Let me see here. Yeah. Or maybe I don't know if this is over the last day. Over the last day they posted this, but I don't think this was the actual. Let me see here. So we know that rent increased in New York by about 10%. This was also posted on the NYC website, the New York City website. Let me see here. Where is it? I literally, let me see if I can find this in my history. I'm not sure if I'm going to find it. Let's see. Rent. Let's just look at rent. Manhattan median rent hits record high with nearly 10% increase over a year. So it talks about these reaching all-time high last month, surging 7% year on year, with the market showing no signs of cooling anytime soon as supply dwindles, but demands remain steady. So we see that the $5,125 per month median rent in the borough in May increase was part of a trend that has been creeping steadily upward. Median Manhattan rents rose 1% from April to June. And so the promises that have been made by Zohran Mamdani haven't been kept because he wants to create this New York that is affordable. And how will he do that? Well, he's going to tax the billionaires. I mean, we see his post talking about reason 1 trillion, why we should tax the rich. Talking about Elon Musk becoming the first trillionaire after his SpaceX EPA launches. SpaceX 11% share price boost has made Elon Musk the world's first trillionaire. And so he posts that on X. And of course, we see Bernie Sanders, the one who is really walking in lockstep with Zohran Mamdani, talking about Elon Musk's rise to trillionaire status is not a time to celebrate. It's a time to action. It's a call to action to take on the unprecedented income and wealth inequality that now exists. And these are the same people that are pushing the universal basic income. They want everybody to receive. And look, even Elon Musk is talking about a UBI. And they say this. Well, Elon Musk's reason is, of course, with AI. Now, Bernie Sanders, the Zohran Mamdanis, the AOCs, they're talking about this problem happening, just because there's too many rich people here. So we need to level out the playing field. We need to give everybody a universal basic income. The doctor, the taxi driver. We see this happen, this failed socialist economy that people want to enact. The youth who are being trained up by these college professors who really are for these types of societies. Now, Elon Musk, on the other hand, has a very sort of different reason why he wants to implement a UBI, but it's far from the globalist mindset, the World Economic Forum ideology, where you will own nothing and you'll be happy for it. You won't be able to own your car. You won't be able to own a house. You'll just rent forever. You won't own anything and you'll be happy. So they don't really know what they're asking for. And so he says our democracy, now just replace that word democracy with our oligarchy, cannot survive when one man who contributed $290 million to get Trump elected becomes $700 billion richer since Trump's election. As if Trump had anything to do with this. This is, of course, because of capitalism. Capitalism is a reason why he's able to obtain this level of net worth. But of course, when you find Bernie Sanders, who's increasing in his own type of wealth, talks about taxing the millionaires, taxing the billionaires after he becomes a millionaire. Bernie Sanders. Let's take a look at this post. This is actually quite funny. This is Bernie Sanders, and this is Elon Musk actually reposting this tweet saying capitalism is a system so good that even the socialists can become millionaires. This posting the dates as to, during the times of these tweets of Bernie Sanders saying you want to keep the minimum wage low and give tax breaks to millionaires. Real Donald Trump, that is not what makes America great. He's not a millionaire during this time. Talking about, are we comfortable with seeing huge increases in millionaires and billionaires, but have more people living in poverty than ever? He's not a millionaire. Are we comfortable with, as a nation, to see huge increase in millionaires and billionaires, but have more people living in poverty? The same exact tweet, but posts this just about a month later. Less than a month later, just a couple days later, a couple weeks. Not a millionaire. But you see here, 2019, just 2 years, saying billionaires should not exist. And he's a millionaire. Net worth jumps from not being a millionaire to being a millionaire. This is Elon Musk saying Bernie Sanders' hypocrisy explained by his own posts. Well, of course he's not going to attack millionaires. He's one of them. This is the hypocrisy that I had the live show ticker on the thing, and let me remove that so you won't be able to see that. Anyway, so Bernie Sanders and all the Elizabeth Warrens, those types, Zohran Mamdani's talking about why we should tax the rich. You only drive these people out of your own state because you enact policies like this. Let's take a look at this.
What happened in New York last night should terrify everyone, and here's why. New York held their Democrat primaries, but instead of electing normal Democrats, voters chose their farther left socialist candidate. These guys, all backed by Zohran Mamdani and all America hating. This one, Daria Liza, she recently converted to Islam and said she would use the American flag to wipe if she forgot a napkin. She co-founded a group at Columbia whose stated mission was the total eradication of Western civilization. She's going to Congress. This one, Claire Valdez, ran on granting citizenship and voting rights to illegals using your tax dollars for trans, surgeries, and the elimination of private insurance. Communist in Congress. Brad also won, but he's technically Jewish, so he had to pretend not to be and do this to get elected. Say what? This chick also won a state assembly seat. She's a child of illegals. She once protested carrying a Hamas headband, and she blamed 9/11 on America's racism. Here's why this matters, because we are watching the Democrat socialists, the communists, take over the Democrat Party. And where have we seen this before? Pre-Soviet Russia. You had the Bolshevik Communist Party and the Mensheviks, and Vladimir Lenin controlled the Bolsheviks, and he wanted to destroy the Mensheviks or the normie Dems. The gameplay has always been, go to a normie blue area, take over, and then replace the normies with radicals. Then claim that your insane minority is the majority. Create a false sense of popularity, pretend that the minority is popular, spread it around at the young people, and get them all talking about it. Lenin did this, and then purged the traditional Mensheviks and took over. Therefore, the minority on paper becomes the majority. For Lenin, the Mensheviks weren't radical enough, and for today's socialists, the Democrats aren't radical enough. Mamdani is today's Lenin. You see clips of him all over social media trying to convince you that this is the new wave, this is where we're headed, and this is fetch. He's wrong. Most people don't want America-hating, ally-hating, seizing your private property, taxing you out the wazoo, terror-loving, gender-chopping, American flag-wiping candidates. They don't want communists. They want normalcy. Only 10% of New York City voted in this election. Most people stayed home. They don't care. But guess what? Apathy elects crazies. Today it's Congress people, tomorrow it's the Nazi tattoo guy for Senate, and then next year it's AOC for president, and then communists are in charge. Guys, it is time to be more aware of your local elections before it ends up eating you and the entire nation. It got really dark, but that'll be all of America if we don't act fast.
So we talked about Karl Marx. A couple of times on this broadcast, we looked at some of his documents of the his own document. What is it? Let me see if I can even find this. Yeah, I might be able to find this. Let's see here. Yeah, maybe not. Let me see. Yeah, it's the manifesto of the Communist Party. This is the book written by Karl Marx. You look at the establishment here. The Communist Revolution, written by Karl Marx. This quote here that we looked at, when he talks about how they can establish the communist revolution, or what will bring about after the communist revolution, saying the most radical rupture of traditional property relations. No wonder that its development involves the most radical rupture with traditional ideas. But let us have done with the bourgeoisie objections to communism. We have seen above that the first step of the revolution by the working class, the proletariat, to raise them up to the position of the ruling class, to win the battle of democracy. The proletariat will use its political supremacy to wrest by degree all capital from the bourgeoisie, to capitalize all instruments of production in the hands of the state, i.e., of the proletariat, organized as the ruling class, and to increase a total of productive forces as rapidly as possible. So the means in order to establish this, you see that it says, but whatever form they must have taken, one fact is common to all past ages: the exploitation of one part of society by the other. No wonder then that the social consciousness of past ages, despite all the multiplicity and variety it displays, moves within certain common forms and general ideas which cannot completely vanish except with total disappearance of class antagonisms. And so there is a portion here, and I'm trying to find it, that in order to, that this is all inevitable, in order to bring about this is by means of violence. So I'm trying to find that quote here. It might be around here, but let me see here. Yeah, even it's just straight from the playbook. Free education for all children in public schools, abolition of children's factory labor in its present form, combination of education with industrial production, etc., etc. It says when in the course of development, class distinctions have disappeared and all production has been concentrated in the hands of a vast association of the whole nation, the public power will lose its political character. Political power, property, so-called, is merely the organized power of one class for oppressing the other. The proletariat, during its contest with the bourgeoisie, is compelled by the force of circumstances. Now, I do want to... Let's see if I can find this quote. But again, all this stuff is not even prepared for this broadcast. It's a lot of other additional information that I just want to bring to your attention. But otherwise, yeah, there's a lot to go through here when we discussed this on a broadcast a while ago. So anyway, yeah, there's a lot here. All right, guys. Cap for Life, how's it going? Power to the people always. You say China is the game plan for the rest of the world. Trump and tech were all in China recently. Boycott China. That's your name. Karl Marx was a Khazar. Can trans people be more right-winged? I'm afraid if I went to any rallies, I would get beat up. So I chose YouTube debates instead. You say America's so screwed. What is Democrats' endgame? Civil war? That's what they want. That's what they wanted back in 2024. That's what they were hoping for. I mean, society was on the brink of civil war as well. You saw what happened following the indictments of Donald Trump. People most certainly wanted to take it in that direction, but it didn't go in that direction. So anyway, all right, guys, if you appreciate anything we discussed on this broadcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Keep it locked here. We'll continue to discuss all these issues. Excuse all the sinus nonsense. We're all sick here in this home. So anyway, all right, guys, subscribe to the podcast. Keep it locked here on the chat, and I'll see you guys in the next one. God bless you. Thanks so much for watching the show. You can always email me your thoughts, freedomequallyoakeshow.com, and stay frosty. See you guys in the next one. God bless.